So good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Josh, and today what we're going to be talking about is phase one or part one of a four-part video series that I'm putting together about building a better van. Our van has gone through a transition and a transformation, and it's made everything so much better. And today we're going to talk about the first part of that transition and hopefully give you guys some pointers, some ideas, some things to consider if you're building a van or rebuilding your van. Hopefully this will help you in your journey. Okay, so before we get started today, I want to thank the sponsor of today's video. Every video you will see here on the channel, and that is Adventure Rig Shop. AdventureRigShop.com is where you can pretty much get every single thing that we talk about today that's in my van for your van. If you're building a van, the link will be in the description along with a code to save yourself 5% at checkout. So for those of you who don't know, 2 years ago, roughly 2 years ago, almost to the day, my wife and I picked up our 2022 Sprinter 170, and we started building it pretty much right away. It's been a project for us that we've kind of just been working on over 2 years, but we got the full van build done in about 60 days with the help of some really awesome companies that kind of brought our vision to life, one of those being Surge Supply. I will also put the link in the description for Surge Supply if you're interested in van life stuff. They have a lot of it. It's a great resource for anybody looking to convert a van. Now, the van for us was kind of like, and still is kind of like, the national park traveling type of vehicle for us. We don't take it too far off road. I know some people take their vans off road. We just don't really take it on hard trails, but we like to sleep way up in the mountains. We just got back from a 2-week trip out in the Tetons, and we were in the van, and it's absolutely perfect for everything we need. But the first time we built that van with the expectation that we were not going to have a lot of the things that other people may consider important. We did a very simple battery system, a very, very simple caveman watering system or water system. We did the interior really nice, but there were still some things that weren't perfect. So we had the guys at Surge Supply completely rebuild our van. After 20,000 miles in our van, there were a lot of things that we started to realize that we wanted or that we didn't need, and we wanted to make some changes. So that's what we did. And today I'm going to kind of talk you through the first phase of that. And that is the floors and the cabinetry that we changed. And I'm going to talk about why we changed the cabinetry, because I think it's important for people to understand maybe what they do need versus what they don't. And hopefully this will be some sort of a guide for you to get a little bit more information about what you may or may not need for your van conversion. So the first thing in the cabinetry section of this I want to talk about is our galley. That is pretty much the most important portion of your van build. When I say it's the most important portion, the reason I say that is because it's just like the most beautiful centerpiece, or it is the centerpiece of your van build. That's where you cook, where you clean, it's where you brush your teeth, that's where you store your food. That's everything happens around the galley. And we originally wanted a really big one. We wanted a really big one because we wanted a large cook surface. There were things that we like to do when we're cooking and when we're traveling, and especially with a 3-year-old. She's always got something on the counter. There's always things on the counter, even in our home. So it's nice to have a big galley. Well, our original galley was a little bit shorter. I believe it was about 28 inches tall from the floor. So it was a little bit shorter. And in our new galley, we raised that up to 30 inches. So it's more flush with your hips. You don't have to bend over as much, which we found ourselves doing a lot when we were camping and cooking. But beyond just the height of the galley, the length of the galley is 60 inches, which is usually not what people do in their vans. But we wanted a really big kitchen, like I said, and we have a flip up on the side that is closest to the driver area. So it flips up another 24 inches. So it gives us 84 inches of cooktop space or countertop space when that flip up is deployed. So it's a really big space. And it's not much different than what we had originally other than the height. But where it does kind of start to change is we introduced a much larger sink. The sink we had previously was about 15 by 15 inches. This one is 18 by 18 inches, and it is really, really deep. I would say it's 15 inches deep. So it is really close to what you would be used to in your home. It's a really big kitchen sink, but it's nice to be able to stack your dishes in there. It was just one of those little things that we didn't realize that we were missing when we were traveling. Until you start traveling, and then you're like, okay, well, I kind of want a bigger sink. It's a nice thing to have. The second thing that we did that was probably one of my favorite parts of the Galley is we went with a massive refrigerator. Traveling on the road for many days at a time when you don't plan on going to the grocery store, if you only have one of the small little fridges like we had originally, we had an isotherm, I think it was an 85. That don't quote me on that. I don't know exactly, but it was a really small refrigerator. This one is the DR130. It's massive. It is a massive, really big refrigerator. Now, the problem with a really big refrigerator is it takes more power to cool it, and it runs more often when it's after you open it. So you are running through more battery power, but we solved the battery power issue. Also, I will go into that in a different video. Today, we're just going to talk about the cabinetry and the floors. But the bigger refrigerator is really nice because you could put 4 or 5 days worth of food in that for 30 people, and you never have to worry about going to the grocery store again. I really like that. It was really convenient for us. It's definitely helped out with how many times we have to stop and resupply. Essentially, now we have much more time that we can be out, and we do not need to worry about getting to a grocery store. So another thing that we changed in this van build was our wheel well box setup, our storage boxes that are underneath our bed. The reason we changed that is we had to reconfigure for a different type of battery system. And also I had my wheel well boxes. They were really deep. So coming off of the wall, they were really deep. And I did that originally just so we could fit our daughter's pack and play underneath the sleeping platform. Well, now my daughter is 3 and she's not, sleeping in a pack and play anymore. So what we have to do now is we blow up a air mattress, essentially a small single-sized air mattress, and it fits directly in between those wheel well boxes. So I needed to make a change because I needed a little bit more space, but I also realized making my wheel well boxes so deep, it made it there was just so much stuff that kind of got lost in there. So I wanted to shrink those up, give myself more space, and reconfigure the storage options. One thing that has been hugely important for us, and it's kind of caught up to us a couple of times, is what's something you don't think about, especially when you're packing your van to go on a trip, and that is dirty clothes. Your dirty clothes end up in a completely separate bag or a completely separate area. So when you're packing your van for your trip, your clothes are all packed in one space, and maybe you've used up all the other space. Well, what happens is as you wear those clothes, you start to assemble this big bag of dirty clothes. So what we had Surge Supply do is basically make us a laundry chute that is behind one of our cabinets that you can just throw your dirty clothes in. And we have a particular space in our storage boxes, one of the spaces that has its own door where all of our dirty clothes end up. And we pack that thing full of dirty clothes, and it's usually a couple of loads that we have to do when we finally fill it all the way up. But that is something to think about, is how are you going to store your dirty clothes? We wanted a laundry chute because it's just simple. You take off your clothes, you throw them in the box, and they're just gone. And you don't have to worry about them. And you open that door up when you're finally ready to do all your laundry after a long trip. So the last piece that we ended up changing was our bench. So behind our flip up seat, we had a storage bench that housed our heater, and then the other side was pretty much open for additional storage. And it was just a fold up top bench. It was nothing particular. It's nothing fancy. It just stored our heater, and we were able to put food and, miscellaneous items on the other side. Well, when we're eating dinner, my wife and I obviously sit in the swivel seats. So they turn around, that's where we sit. Well, my daughter doesn't really have a place to go. So she would, either sit on the floor, or she would kind of stand up and use the bench as a table. So what we did is we took that bench out, and we had Surge Supply make us a custom seating area for our daughter. We have an additional flip up table just behind the hide and go seat. and it flips up, and that bench is now a spot for my daughter to sit, and it minimized the amount of space that I was using on the floor. So I actually have more floor space now, which is really nice because when everything's stowed and flipped out of the way, we can kind of hang out and it gives us more surface area to actually stand in and walk in. But we wanted something that we needed a place for her to sit, or a place for me to work, or a place for my wife to work, whatever it is. Now we have two true sitting areas. So all three of us have a place to sit and eat and hang out while we're in the van. Okay, so the last thing we did, which I don't think a lot of people do, but until you've had a van and you had hard floors, and you've been on your knees trying to get into your wheel well boxes, or you're cleaning off the floors and you feel how hard your wood floor is underneath your lawn seal. So we have a one piece of rubber that is pre-cut to fit our floor. So that one piece of rubber generally gets glued to the subfloor directly on top. Well, what I asked Surge Supply to do was to put an 1/8-inch piece of foam underneath our lawn seal top coat. So what that does is it makes everything plush. Like when you step on it, it's softer. When you're on it on your knees, it's softer. When you're cleaning it and you're maybe on your elbows, it's softer. And it also adds another layer of insulation, albeit it's not very much. It does give you a little bit additional insulation, but it is so nice to have a floor that is a little bit more plush when you're stepping on it. You can definitely notice the difference. It's night and day from just having a subfloor in your van. And it's definitely one of those things that I wouldn't say everyone needs to do. It is not a necessity by any means, but it makes the interior space of your van so much more comfortable, simply because you have a soft plush floor to step on, to kneel on. And my daughter's on the ground. She's usually coloring, whatever she's doing. It really did make a massive difference in how the van feels while we're in it. Okay, so that is the basic breakdown of phase one of building a better van. There are some small things in there that if you're looking to build a van and you never have built a van before, or maybe you're redoing your van, these are all things to consider. Next week and the preceding 2 weeks after that, we are going to dive into all the other things that I did. We have changed so much in our van to make it more usable for long-term, long duration trips. This was maybe like a week-long trip, 2-week-long trip type of van in its original configuration. But now it is it's capable of so much more. I'm so excited to use it again. We just got back, like I said, for 2 weeks, and we're going to be going for another 2 weeks here in about a month. So I'm just super excited to be able to have this van and use it in its true fashion, and to be able to maximize all the space. After you travel in your van for long enough, you will learn a lot of tips and tricks, and you're going to want to change things. So if you have the opportunity to do that, I would definitely recommend it, because once you finally get a taste of what the van is like, you're going to have a hard time going back to a tent or whatever that may be. So I appreciate you guys for watching today. If this video was helpful and you're interested in the 3-part series, please hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, share it, do all that cool stuff, and I will see you on the next one.